Good morning. I think I've got it all set up right. It looks like it. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a good week, etc., etc., etc. Right? I say that every morning, don't I? But I really mean it. I really do mean it. I do hope you are having a wonderful day, week, month, year, life. Just fill in the blank, right? With whatever measurement of time you want to put in there. Anyway, this morning I'm on a couple of minutes early. I've got to get done and get off because they're coming to take Chris's EEG off this morning. So he will be free of that cute little cap. He wears it well though. He really does. Anyway, I thought, man, I got to get up and get going this morning. I got to make sure I'm on time. I can't be late, right? So here we are. Let's go. So my thoughts were this morning, um, we know God is our provider, right? I mean, we say that. We say God is my provider, and when my rent went up last couple of times, if my rent goes up, I'm like, hey God, your rent went up. I don't know how you're gonna pay it, but your rent went up. So, and we tease about that and we make light of it sometimes, but He really is our provider, right? He has made a way in my life where I thought there was no way at all. And there was just no way. And yet I've seen him start, he just puts pieces together and you just kind of wake up and go, oh, he did it. Because I sure didn't have the smarts to do it, right? Or I didn't have the know-how to do it, or I didn't even have the patience to wait. But God puts pieces together, He's a great planner if we'll just listen to him first, right? So I was thinking about that. I was praying about a couple of things that are just pressing on my heart this morning, and I just was thinking about God as provider and thinking of how he's provided really for me the whole 62 years, just one thing after another. And this story came to mind, and it's the story of it's Elijah, First Kings 17, and the widow. And Elijah comes, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, let's see, yep, God sent Elijah there, okay? Find my other glasses here. In verse 8, it says, the Lord said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. There is a widow there who will feed you. Now, this widow doesn't know Elijah's coming. And this widow ain't even got the food to feed him. But God said, go, there is a widow who will feed you. The widow ain't got a clue. She didn't know. And that's the title of this, is what you know. So she's living on what she didn't know. She doesn't have a clue he's coming. She doesn't have a clue he's going to ask for food. She'd have been stressed out maybe if she'd have known, right? But she didn't even know. And so he goes down to Zarephath, and as he got to the gates, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, would you please bring me a cup of water? And as she was going to get it, he said, bring me some bread too, as a matter of fact. And she said, look, this is where I got to draw the line. It's not King James. I don't have any food. I have just enough for a cake for my son and I. have just enough flour and just enough oil for a cake for my son and I, and then we're going to die. That was her plan. That's not a very good plan, but that was her plan. But she was looking at what she had, and she was looking at what she knew, and what she knew, was that she had just enough flour, cornmeal, whatever she was going to make the cake out of, and oil to make a cake, and that was it. So she had no other resources. She had no other, in her mind, there was no other possibility. So she's like, we're going to eat this and then we're going to die. Now, we laugh because we go, man, is she fixed to get blessed by God? Because God actually blessed her meal and her oil through this whole famine, and it never went dry. She had enough every single day, but she didn't know that was coming. What she knew had her all bound up. What she knew, and we can read this story and kind of laugh and go, yeah, it's fixing to get really good because we already know the end of the story. But she was in the middle of the story. And can you imagine the raw? See, this is a part of the Bible sometimes we forget to do because we look at God's miracles, and it is miraculous and it is wonderful, and we still see these things today, and we get caught up in that, and that's a good thing to get caught up in, don't get me wrong, but we forget that this was a real woman, a widow, so she'd lost her husband, with a real son, looking at just eating what she had in her cabinet and dying. Think about the raw emotions of that. We see a similar story with Hagar in Genesis, 18, 20, 22, I don't know, somewhere in there. I have to go back and look. But in Genesis, we see that same story where she's cast out and she goes and she cries out on God, and God goes, "There's water right there," and He provided for her and Ishmael too, right? But when we're in that moment, our emotions get the best of us because of what we don't know, and yet we look at her story and go, and we forget that she had some raw emotions there. She had feelings that of doom, I guess would be maybe the best way to describe it. And sometimes we forget that these are real people with real feelings and real emotions. And she probably had some fear. Maybe she thought about cutting this little cake in half and making it last 2 days, but she thought she and her son were going to die. I can't even imagine the emotions running through her and the thoughts running through her head and the emotions, the heart-wrenching emotions of, I get to just watch my son die after this. We forget it's a real person with real feelings. But see, she didn't know. We look at the story and go, and it's actually kind of funny because it's like, you ain't gonna die. But she didn't know that in that moment, right? And so Elijah says, no, make mine first, which is a really bold request. I'd be like, you can go stand over there. I'm making my sons first, and then if I have any left, you can have it. I'll starve, right? But he said, make mine first, and then God will provide. And God provided. But she didn't know what the next few days looked like. At that point, she didn't know what the next few years looked like, right? And so he blessed her. She cooked his, and then she had enough for her and her son, and then she had enough for all three of them again, and then she had enough again. And can you imagine? See, she couldn't just go to McDonald's. She couldn't just run over to Chris and grab some more produce, right? It was a famine first off, and there was nothing to be had, right? And so she went from that to going to the cabinet every morning, or the kitchen, whatever. I guess they didn't have cabinets. I don't know. And opening the container and realizing there's enough for today, and then using it all up, and then going in the morning and going, there's enough for today. And then using it all up and going in the morning and going, well, there's enough for today. And just so she went from, this is all I have and we're going to die. And all the emotions wrapped up into that too. Every single morning getting up and having enough for that day. Have you ever been in one of those spots spiritually? Sometimes we don't live through that in the natural, thankfully, but spiritually, it's like, this is all I've got today. And then I'm just gonna die spiritually, emotionally, mentally, right? This is all I've got for today, and I just can't handle anymore. I can't walk through anymore. And yet miraculously, we think, okay, this is it, and then we die. And God touches where we are, or God graces us with His presence, and all of a sudden we have His peace, we have His grace, we have His mercy, and things work out. First off, we're all still here, so something's worked out, right? And yet, maybe today I'm going to end up with the day, I don't know, depleted, just exhausted. I've got a lot of stuff. Man, yesterday was crazy, and today's right up there with it. Just one thing after another, right? And it can just feel like we're just depleted, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to live this day and basically just die. I just don't have anything left. And yet we get up in the next morning and go, okay, God, let's take this day. And then at the end of the day, we're like, oh, I don't even know. Oh no, we got it. Okay. And that's because He just is constantly giving us His grace. He's undergirding us with His mercy. He's carrying us with His grace, because His grace is sufficient every single day. His mercy is enough every single day. We find grace to help. We find His peace still sustaining us, right? His love is still there. It's immeasurable. And she couldn't have measured all of the grain that came through her house. She probably had no clue, because she was just like, what? It just keeps filling up. Or, just like when Jesus fed the 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Can you imagine walking through 5,000 people with a half a loaf of bread and breaking it off and giving that piece to someone, and then there's still the same amount of bread there? That's kind of how His peace is. See, God's giving us a picture of Himself. He's always enough for today. We don't have to borrow from tomorrow. We don't have to plan to die. He's always enough for the moment. He's always enough for the day. So we break off that piece of bread, give it to someone, and realize, whoa, the bread's still the same size. Oh, break it off and give it to someone. Oh, it's still the same size. Oh, break it off, give it, still the same size. That's how He feeds us spiritually too. I'm like, okay, I'm going to tap into your grace today. I'm going to find that grace I need. I need to help me in this time of need, in this time of trouble, in this situation to work through this problem. And then when I reach back, I'm like, oh, there's still enough grace there for the next one. Isn't that amazing? There's still enough grace there if I when I go to the next storm. There's still enough peace there for the next situation that I have to deal with, or I end up getting myself into, because I do that, get myself into situations. I know nobody else does that, right? I get myself back into these little corners. There's always enough grace. We never use it up. We never use up his peace. So this is a picture of just God's eternal mercy, the infinity explained. It never runs out. And we can't really understand that because even my coffee runs out. I need another cup, right? That would be a cool miracle, though, if I just always had a warm cup of coffee right here. I think he said no. But in essence, he's always, we never, we may break off that piece of bread that he uses. What is this? The model prayer says, give us today the bread we need for today. See, he didn't give her a kitchen so full that she couldn't even manage to get through her kitchen. He just gave her what she needed every single day from then on. And that's the same way. See, he gives us what we need in the moment. He gives us what, and that's just means we're leaning into him a little bit more and trying to trust him a little bit more. And I know things are complicated, and I know things are difficult, and I know things are emotionally draining, but there's always enough. There's always enough for that moment. And there's always enough for the next moment. We're never going to get to the end of it. And man, is that the coolest thought in the world for me right now. I'm not going to wear out his grace. He's not going to say, that's it. That's it. That's it. He just keeps breaking off that bread I need for today and giving me the sustenance I need spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every arena, in every possible sector of life. He just says, here's what you need. And he takes care of me. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't get tired of it. He's just constantly watching. And man, I know people get tired of me. I know that people have told me that. They really do. But he just keeps breaking off what we need for the day. He just keeps breaking off what we need for that moment. That's enough for me to just go, man, today I can peace out. I'm just going to trust him for today. And I encourage you to just trust him for today. That's all the widows. He didn't give her enough for a year. He didn't give her enough for a month, a week, anything past today. But we know we have what we need today. So let's just trust him for today. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.